onda, mi gente? Today we're going to talk about the ER and IR preterite. If you haven't seen the first video about what the preterite is, as well as how to conjugate the AR, I'm going to link it at the end of this video. So just to recap, the preterite is the first past tense we learn in Spanish, and it is the most important, right? It's the Spanish past tense that you're going to use the most often, especially as you are like living day-to-day life until you start telling stories. The preterite is completed actions. It's things that happen one time, right? The way I like to look at it is if I sat down at the end of the day and wrote out what I did throughout that day, that would be the preterite, right? I woke up, I got dressed, I took a shower, I made breakfast, I drove to work, I worked 8 hours, I sang a song, I played in the park, I went to the gym, right? I watched the sunset. All of that stuff is going to be the preterite. And so the process for both the AR and the ER/IR is the same. The only difference is the ending, right? So real fast, recap it. I'm not going to go into it as much as far as practice, but the ARs here are A, aste, o, amos, and aron. And then the ER/IR is going to be I, iste, io, imos, and iero, right? So unlike the present tense where there is a small change with the ER/IR, amos, imos, right? In the past, it's always the same. I, iste, io, imos, iero. So now, how should you practice this? So the first things we need to do is we need to just practice the conjugation. That's step number one, right? So take 4 verbs, for example, vender, comprender, salir, and insistir, for example. So to sell, to understand, to leave or go out, to insist, right? And just practice the conjugation. So we're just going to practice conjugations. So for example, with this first one, vender, we're going to, step 1, get rid of the ER/IR, and step 2, add our endings. So vender, get rid of the ER, we just have VEND, right? Then we add I, iste, io, imos, iero. So yo vendí, tú vendiste, él vendió, nosotros vendimos, ellos vendieron. We go to comprender, get that ER, right? Get rid of that ER. Comprendí, tú comprendiste, él comprendió, nosotros comprendimos, ellos comprendieron, right? Same with salir, right? So just practice this a handful of times. Get rid of the IR from salir. Salí, saliste, salió, salimos, salieron. Practice this. Just go through a list of ER/IR verbs. Practice this until it feels natural. And you're able to just like look at the verb and be like, okay, you know, leí, leíste, leo, leímos, leyeron. Perfect. Vivir, viví, viviste, vivió, vivimos, vivieron, right? You should be able to do that in your sleep. From there, for example, with our 4 verbs we have here, vender, comprender, salir, insistir. Actually, I'm going to change insistir to vivir for the purpose of this next little activity. Is what we're going to do is make short phrases that make sense, right? So first off, we're just going to start with the yo, right? So for example, with vender, yo vendí mi casa. Well, I sold my house. Yo vendí mi carro. I sold my car, right? Yo vendí comida en la playa. I sold food in the beach. Yo vendí mi tabla de surf. I sold my surfboard, right? We're going to go to the next word, right, in our list. Comprender. Yo comprendí español. Yo comprendí lo que tú dices. I understood what you said. Yo comprendí la situación. I understood the situation. Salir. Salí de la escuela. I left. Salí de mi casa a las 8. I left my house at 8. Salí para tomar el viernes. I went out to drink on Friday. And then vivir. Yo viví en España. Yo viví en México. Yo viví en 3 casas. Whatever it may be. 3 houses. And from there, we're going to work with the other people. So now going back to vender. I'm just going to give one example here. So, tú vendiste tu carro. You sold your car. Él vendió empanadas. He sold empanadas. Nosotros vendimos el gato. We sold the cat. Ellos vendieron cuchillos. They sold knives. Whatever it may be. And then like with salir, right? I'll give you another example. Yo salí a las 8. Tú saliste de un problema. You left or got out of a problem. Él salió de la nada. He came out of nowhere. Nosotros salimos de peligro. We got out of danger. Ellos salieron de su casa. right? They left their house. Now, once we've done this, once we've made up these simple little sentences, what we're gonna do now is try and take multiple words and combine them into a sentence, right? Starting first with yo and then moving on to other subjects, right? So for an example, yo salí de Estados Unidos en 2020. I left the US since I left the US in 2020. Y yo viví en México por 2 años. And I lived in Mexico for 2 years. Yo viajé a España en 2017 y viví en España por un año. I traveled to Spain in 2017 and I lived there for a year. Try and combine them, right? Using different connector words, y, and, luego, later, entonces, then. Try and make more and more complex. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, do whatever you guys do on YouTube. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Anything you struggle with, I'm more than happy to take your suggestions into consideration for future videos. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you soon.